if these were my kids, babysitter better be running. Like, run. Hey guys, and welcome to a completely random story time video. I have no idea when I'm gonna upload this, but after what happened, I felt like I needed to share. So essentially today is still Keely's birthday. We've just gotten home from a movie, but just before we went to the movie, something crazy happened. So here's what happened. I had gone down to the main office of our apartment to meet my lip sync lady because I had an order. So in our apartment building, all of the hallways and everything are inside. I think it's kind of something they do up north because, well, it's cold. So I asked Keely, I was like, hey, do you want to go down with me? I'm just going to meet my lip sync lady out front. So, you know, we loaded up and walked down the hallway, got on the elevator, went out front and met up with the lip sync lady. Nothing that interesting happened there. I met her, got my lip sync fixed, and then we were head back inside to get on the elevator and come back to the apartment. As we were going back to the elevator, we passed like 3 kids in the hallway. I didn't think anything of it. You see, I mean, the older one looked old enough for them to be, I don't know, walking to a friend's or doing whatever. So we go to get in the elevator, and we get in the elevator, we're standing on the elevator, and I've already pressed the button for our floor. And Keely goes, do you hear that? It sounds like a kid crying. And I was like, yeah, I do. One of those kids must be crying. So I pushed the stop button on the elevator, walked off the elevator, and walked over to these 3 kids and said, hey, are you guys okay? At which point the older one was like, not really, we can't find our babysitter. At this point, I'm assuming they live in my building, but they have like winter gear on. I'm like, do you guys live here? He's all, no. I'm thinking, well, where did you come from? So our building is secure. You need like a key to get in the building. So I'm kind of asking them like, where is she? And they're like, we don't know. We drove us here, and then she got out of the car and left us in the car and said she'd be back, and that we've been in the car for like 20 minutes or so and she's not back. So let me just paint the picture here. We live where it's very cold. Like literally there is a winter weather advisory for tomorrow. We're going to get wind chills that make the real field temperature down to like -40. Today was actually warm by comparison. It was, at the time that I bumped into these kids, it was real close to 7. And it was probably 20 degrees out. So not warm by any stretch of the imagination. So at this point, the kids are like, well, maybe our babysitter's back at the car. So I have no idea how long they'd been wandering around inside the apartment. They told me they were probably waiting in the car for 20 minutes. We go back out to the car. The car is not on. No one is in it. All the windows are like all fogged up. It's cold, like it hasn't been on for a while. So at that point, the kids were like, well, maybe we can just wait in the car. I'm like, absolutely not. You guys are not waiting in the car. It's freezing cold out here. Who knows where the babysitter is? I asked if they knew what apartment she was going to. They said no. I was like, there's a community room right there where we were. You guys can wait in there where it's nice and warm. I asked them if they called their mom, if they knew her number, because they didn't have a phone. And they said, well, I asked if they had called the babysitter first. And they said they didn't know her number. So they said they tried to call their mom. They had a tablet, but it didn't sound like it went through. I think they needed Wi-Fi to make a call, and there wasn't a strong enough signal. So I had them go ahead and gather their stuff out of the car, and I brought them in to the community room. At this point, I called Cabin, because I'm like, this is a weird situation, and I wanted him to actually bring a pen down so we could leave a note on the car, just in case the only hope for the scenario was to give them back to the babysitter, which I was already feeling real unsure about. I called Calvin, was like, hey, can you come down? And he's like, why? And so I explained, like, there's these kids, babysitter left him in the car, whatever. He comes down. Right before Calvin came down, the kid said he wanted to go ahead and try and call his mom on my phone. So I gave him my phone. He was able to get a hold of his mom, at which point I spoke to her and told her, like, where we live and what the situation was, and she said, I'll be there in like 10 minutes. This was probably 7:05 at that point. So I hang up with her. Our community room has like snacks and stuff in it, so I went ahead and got the kids some snacks and something to drink. Then we were just hanging out. Calvin and I, Keely, these kids. We're standing there kind of keeping an eye on the door because I think their mom's going to show up sometime soon. Somewhere right around 7:20, 7:25. So mind you, the kids had been waiting in the car for 20 minutes, and they've now been kind of under my supervision for at least 20 minutes. So anywhere between 45 minutes and an hour, the babysitter has been nowhere around. At this point, we see a girl get off the elevator with a boy. They're either young 20s or late teens. They're holding hands, according to what Kevin said. I didn't see them right when they got off the elevator, but he did. He said they were definitely holding hands. They walk by our community room has glass doors and a bunch of windows, and they look in the window as they walk by, and then the boy walks her straight to the door, to the outside, and she heads out the door. And Keely goes, I wonder if that's their babysitter. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe. So the kid kind of peeks out the door, the older one, and he goes, that was our babysitter. And he's like telling his sisters to pack up their stuff. I'm like, nope. At this point, you are not leaving with her. So I kind of grab my keys because you need him to get in the building. So it's not like she just showed up at the building. Someone let her in. And I walk out the door. About this point, she's already checked her car, realizes the kids aren't in there. Rounds the corner looking all concerned with her phone up to her ear. I said, are you the babysitter who left the kids in the freezing cold car? And she goes, no. And then she looks at me. She still got the phone on her ear. She goes, can you tell them to come out here? I said, no. I'm not telling them to come out here. I've called their mother. She's on her way. At which point, she turns around and beelines it back to her car. I'm like, works for me, fine. I head back in. The kids are like, what are we doing? I'm like, you're waiting for your mom. She told me she's coming. At this point, I feel I need to call the mom back, obviously have her number on my phone, and let her know this girl literally, it appears, left your kids in the car so she could hook up with a little boy upstairs. So I step out of the room. Obviously, I'm not going to have this conversation in front of the kids. And I call her and I say, hey, I just want to let you know the babysitter just came back downstairs. She came out with a boy and she went out to the car. And she goes, oh yeah, I just talked to her. She said they got stuck in the elevator. If you'll remember earlier in the story, I got on the elevator right about the time that I found the kids. So that would be fairly interesting to be stuck in the elevator. And I'm like, I don't think she got stuck in the elevator. She came down with a boy who walked her all the way over to the door. I believe she's lying to you, and she left your kids in the car so she could hook up with whoever. And she's like, okay, I'll be there in however long. So we wait around for a little bit longer. It probably takes mom 25-30 minutes to get there, which is fine. She was at work. I mean, it's understandable. It's going to take her a little time to get there. She gets there and she comes in and she's like, I'm so sorry. Which I'm thinking, you're sorry? Oh my goodness. Like, I just feel bad for you. She then brings the babysitter in, which I'm kind of confused about, because if these were my kids, the babysitter better be running. Like, run. Because I was fired up, and they're not my kids. I don't even know them. So she brings the babysitter, and she's like, she feels so bad. Babysitter comes in kind of hot, right? Like, she's going to tell me. And she's like, starts kind of like getting herself all worked up. And she's like, I was stuck in the elevator. I mean, I'm like terrified of elevators. She's like, I don't mean to be disrespectful. And I was like, you weren't stuck in the elevator, because I was just in that elevator. Mind you, there's cell phone reception in the elevator. There's a phone. You could dial 911. All of the maintenance staff in our apartment live in the apartment. She's obviously here with someone who lives here. And she gets like, yes, I was. And I said, I watched you walk out from there with a boy holding hands, because at this point Calvin had told me he very clearly saw that, where he walked you all the way to the outside door. And she goes, I was not holding his hand. I was with a boy. And she's like, I'm like, you left those kids regardless in a car in the freezing cold. It's dark out. It's nighttime. Like, and she goes, my friend was waiting out there with them. I don't know where my friend went. I'm thinking, well, that's real funny. The kids saw the need to come inside to look for you, but there was a friend standing out there, and the friend lives here. Why are you leaving the kids and the friend standing outside in freezing temperatures? Real confused. She also mentioned when she's given the whole we were stuck in the elevator story that she's deathly afraid of elevators. Literally in our apartment, the staircase is 5 feet from the elevator. So, I mean, it's a real interesting choice if you're deathly afraid of elevators to get on the elevator instead of taking the stairs. Real bizarre. I didn't have time to break that down because I was just a little fired up already. She continued to like try and tell me her story, and I said, you need to stop talking to me right now. I said, I have no concern for you. They're not my kids. She goes, then why do you care? I said, because they're her kids, and it's her responsibility to make the decision, and I want her to have all the information. She's like obviously real upset that I'm giving my 2 cents. I'm thinking, lady, you're lucky I didn't call the police on you, because it really crossed my mind and they would have had plenty of time to get there. The only reason I didn't is because I felt the mom is innocent in the situation. She thinks her kids are being cared for. This girl also tells me, she's like, I nanny for 3 families. I've been doing this for 3 years. I'm thinking, couple points. 1, you would think you would know not to leave kids in a freezing car. 2, her car's like a 2-door sedan. The youngest kid was like 4 or 5. Pretty sure there's no booster in the car. If someone is a nanny, and I happen to know 1 or 2 really good nannies, they're kind of big on safety of the kids they're caring for. Literally the only thing that crossed my mind was, please tell me their names so I can call them and tell them what a piece of garbage nanny you are. Anyway, I'm getting all heated again, man.
I need to calm down. I just also happen to be, by total coincidence, wearing this shirt. Can you see what my shirt says? Mama, I've had this shirt for 2 days. It's the first time wearing it.
Just happened to be wearing it. When, like, I haven't had a situation where, like, Mama Bear came out like that in a long time. So, totally appropriate that that's the shirt I was wearing. What a story. I was shaking because I was so fired up. I wanted to wring this girl's neck. It was crazy. My daughter, as we're walking upstairs, she's like, Mom, like, I didn't scream at her or anything, but I was very firm and no nonsense. Like, you know, you're not going to sit here and lie in my face and act like I'm crazy. Also, the thing the mom had told me was she knew that the girl was bringing the kids here and they were going to go swimming, which would be totally reasonable. Say she has a girlfriend who lives in the building. We have an indoor pool. Bring the kids here to swim. Funny thing is, I have no idea why you would leave the kids in the car for even 5 minutes if you were bringing them here to swim. Makes 0 sense, like everything else she said. So, long story short, vet your child care providers. Vet them up, vet them down, ask everybody. This poor mom, I felt terrible for her. I only hope that she scrutinizes the story of this girl and is able to find better childcare. Thanks for listening to my rant/story time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. There probably won't be that many story times because things this dramatic don't usually happen in my life. It's usually pretty boring, which is why I had to share. See you in the next video. Bye.